In college, I rebelled against my upbringing and started to explore what the world had to offer. Although I had grown up in the church, attended Seventh-day Adventist school, and was taught about God from an early age, I had a tug of war in my heart as to the direction of my life. Even though I wasn't really interested in attending religious services, one evening I found myself at Vespers at the request of my girlfriend. The program was about mission service, and I found myself strangely drawn to the idea of spending a year overseas. Then, while the speaker was speaking, the projector malfunctioned and the slides wouldn't advance. I found myself praying and telling God that if the screen would work again, I'd give him a year of my life. And the screen started to work a minute after I finished my prayer. I held true to my word, and I applied to be a student missionary. In the next school year, I found myself working as a teacher in Palau. Upon arriving on the island, I committed to reading the Bible from cover to cover. I wanted my faith to be my own, not my parents', not my grandparents', nor my teachers'. I wanted to know God for myself. One day I read Malachi 3:10, which talks about tithing, and how God says to test him and watch him throw open the storehouses of heaven in response to faithfulness. So I did just that. I was paid every other Friday. In that first Sabbath morning, I decided to put all $300 in the offering plate. I said a prayer, and before I could change my mind, I gave it all to God. I wasn't sure what I was going to eat that week, but I trusted that God was going to provide. The next day, my adopted Palauan mom called me and said that she had purchased some extra goshes and wanted to share some with me. She was a single mom, so I didn't expect much. But when I arrived at her car, she gave me bags and bags of groceries worth at least $100. I felt as if God was saying, "You can't fathom the blessings that I have in store for you." My faith grew by leaps and bounds as I experienced many other instances of God's goodness while in Palau. When I returned to the States, I couldn't wait to share with my family all that God had done. After listening to my stories, my uncle encouraged me to give offerings in addition to returning God's tithe. And once again, I sensed God saying, "Trust me, I'll make your wildest dreams come true." I began returning God's tithes and giving offerings, and God continued to bless in big and small ways. Giving was so embedded in my lifestyle that I didn't think of it as being a source of tension when I got married. But I soon realized that my wife thought I was a bit fanatical to want to give more than 10% of our income to the church. Early on in our marriage, it all came to a head. Our truck payment of $1,100 was due. But if we paid that one bill, we wouldn't have enough money for tithes and offerings. As we sat at the kitchen table looking at our finances, I shared with her stories from my time in Palau, and I told her that I'd rather lose the truck than not give our tithes and offerings to God. After listening, she finally agreed to give to God first. On Friday, we went online, we returned God's tithes and our offerings. On Monday, I received an unexpected letter from our employer. Upon opening it, I discovered a bonus check for $2,500 that I didn't know I qualified for. God showed up in a huge way, and from that point on, my wife was committed to paying both tithes and offerings. In fact, she told me that we needed to figure out how to increase the amount of money that we were giving to the church. God might not always provide such immediate responses to our faithfulness, but I have no doubt in my mind that God will always honor our faithfulness. I could share many other instances of God's goodness, but I will close with this truth. I feel as if I wouldn't be as blessed if I held back. Each time I give beyond 10%, I'm trusting that God will provide, and each time, God has been more than faithful. Without a shadow of a doubt, I know that God is an amazing Father who loves to give good gifts to His children. Taste and see.